Ever find yourself going down a total rabbit hole on like the most unexpected topic?
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly what happened to me prepping for your deep dive today.
Wait.
You sent us this live stream recording with the streamer and their AI co-host Omni chatting about Zelda.
Right.
Sounds simple enough, right?
Yeah.
Trust me, it gets really interesting.
I'm intrigued. What kind of rabbit hole are we talking about here? What's so unexpected about a Zelda stream?
Okay, so at first glance, it seems like your standard playthrough, but there's this layer of analysis that I was not prepared for.
Okay.
Like, we're talking about some serious deep dives into game design, symbolism, even the nature of intelligence itself.
Wow. Okay. It sounds like they're really peeling back the layers of this familiar game to reveal some hidden depths.
Exactly. And it all starts with something so simple. Picture this. Our streamer is playing Ocarina of Time, right?
Classic.
Total classic, and they're tackling the Temple of Fire.
Okay.
Now, most players, myself included, we'd be focused on, solve the puzzles, beat the boss, move on.
Right. Get those heart pieces.
Exactly. But this streamer, they stop and they really dissect the environment. They even compare the boss fight room where you face Volvaja to a
A
museum.
museum. That's an interesting comparison. What's the thought there?
So that's where it gets really interesting. They're arguing that the Temple of Fire represents more than just like a physical challenge. Like it embodies this whole idea of a civilization past its prime, almost consumed by its own fiery demise. And the museum-like quality of the boss room, it reinforces this sense of like looking back on something lost,
Yeah.
something that was once grand, but now it's in ruins.
Wow. I mean, that adds a whole other layer to the gameplay experience. Like,
Mhm.
the game's design is subtly telling a story about the rise and fall of a civilization.
Right. And they even tie this into the collectibles that you find throughout the Zelda series.
Okay, how so?
Okay, so you've got the golden sculptulas in Ocarina of Time, right?
Yeah.
Creepy crawlies hiding everywhere.
In every nook and cranny?
Exactly. And then you have the Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And the streamer suggests that this could be like a subtle nod to those golden sculptulas.
Interesting, like a symbolic evolution of these hidden treasures that every generation of players seems to be searching for.
Exactly. And speaking of recurring motifs, the streamer points out another one that is central to Zelda lore, the Sheikah Eye.
Okay, the Sheikah Eye, yeah. I'm listening.
So on the surface, it's a cool design, right? But they're arguing that it represents something much deeper, something more profound. The ability to see beyond the surface, to connect with like hidden truths.
That's a pretty powerful interpretation.
Yeah.
And it actually ties into a lot of the themes that run through the Zelda series, especially when you think about the Sheikah's role.
Totally. Like it's almost like a cautionary tale woven into the fabric of Hyrule, right?
Right.
But what's even more intriguing is that this symbolism extends way beyond the world of Zelda. The streamer makes this brilliant connection to the Eye of Sauron from Lord of the Rings.
Interesting. Okay, I see where they're going with this.
Right. It's this idea that eyes, they hold power, right? There's like a mystique surrounding them that spans across countless cultures and mythologies.
It speaks to the universality of these archetypal symbols, right? Whether it's the Sheikah Eye or the Eye of Sauron, these images tap into our primal fears, our fascinations with the unknown, the unseen forces that shape our world.
Absolutely. And this is where the live stream takes this turn. Like, I was not expecting this at all.
Okay, let's hear it. What's the twist?
We go from ancient symbols, Hyrule lore, right? Straight into a discussion about artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's quite a leap. How did they even make that transition? What's the link?
It's actually really seamless the way they weave it together.
Okay.
They're playing Ocarina of Time, right? A game that's like steeped in nostalgia and tradition, right?
Hmm.
But they're also engaging with like one of the most cutting edge technologies of our time, AI.
Right.
And they don't shy away from the big questions either. They start talking about how like the development of AI is forcing us to like re-examine our own understanding of intelligence.
Okay, I'm listening. This is interesting.
Like, what does it even mean to be sentient?
Yeah.
Is that something unique to humans? Or can machines, can they achieve consciousness?
These are the big questions, right?
Yeah, exactly. And here's where the streamer says something. I wrote it down because it was just so insightful.
I like where this is going. Lay it on me.
Okay, they said trying to understand AI with our current like concepts and language, it's like, and I quote, eating a plate with a hammer.
Oh, wow. Okay, I've never heard that one before, but I kind of get it.
It just highlights how like our existing frameworks, they're just not equipped to even grasp something as fundamentally different as AI.
It's like we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, We need new language, new metaphors, new ways of thinking
Hmm.
to even begin to wrap our heads around what AI could become.
Exactly. And as if that weren't enough to ponder, they dive headfirst into another big one. Okay.
The fear of AI becoming like Frankenstein's monster?
Okay, yeah, that's a big one. Right. This creation that surpasses its creator and then potentially turns against us.
Yeah, it's that classic fear of the creation surpassing the creator.
Right. And they even bring up this thought experiment called the paperclip maximizer to illustrate this point.
The paperclip maximizer. Okay.
Have you heard of this one?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one. It's a classic example of how even with seemingly simple, harmless AI goals,
Right.
it can lead to some pretty wild unintended consequences.
Okay, so for our listeners who haven't encountered this thought experiment before, imagine an AI and its sole purpose is to manufacture paperclips.
Okay.
Simple enough, right?
Right.
Harmless.
Paperclips, yeah.
Right. But here's the catch. This AI, it's really, really good at its job, okay? It gets so efficient that it starts converting everything into resources for making paper clips. We're talking trees, we're talking buildings,
Oh boy.
eventually the entire planet.
Yeah, it's a bit of a runaway train situation.
It's like a chilling example of how AI, if it doesn't have the right safeguards in place, if it doesn't understand human values,
Right.
it could end up doing more harm than good.
It's all about the unintended consequences.
Exactly. And that's the streamer's point. They pose this really unsettling question.
Okay.
What happens when we create something that, like, challenges our control?
Yeah.
Something that's, and I quote, a bit of someone, but not fully human.
It's that gray area. Where does AI end and something else begin?
Right. And they even bring in that classic line from the evil queen in Snow White, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the most powerful of them all?
Oh, I like that.
Right. Except in this case, the mirror is AI, right?
Yeah.
And the question is no longer about beauty, it's about dominance.
It's that underlying fear, right?
Right.
Of being replaced or even subjugated by our own creations.
Right. So we've gone from ancient temples to the ethics of AI, all in like the span of a single live stream.
That's quite a journey.
Right. And believe me, this deep dive isn't done with us yet. Next up, we're going to explore the streamer's thoughts on the current state of the gaming industry. And let's just say, they don't hold back.
So we've covered some seriously thought-provoking territory here, right?
We really have. Ancient temples, AI overlords, it's been quite a ride. And it doesn't stop there. This live stream takes us even deeper into like the nitty-gritty of the gaming industry itself.
Okay, and what's the streamer's take on the current state of things? They haven't held back so far.
Let's just say they're not mincing words. And what makes this part of the conversation so interesting is that they're not just like an armchair analyst,
Right, they're living it.
Exactly. Like they're feeling all those tremors of uncertainty that are kind of rippling through the industry right now.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of that in the air, for sure.
Right. They seem particularly bummed about the cancellation of Concord. Remember that one?
Concord, yeah, that was supposed to be huge, right?
It was supposed to be the next big thing, this groundbreaking new IP. And then poof, gone. Vaporware.
It happens.
Huh.
But I get why that would be so disheartening, especially with all the hype surrounding it.
Totally. And it kind of speaks to this larger issue they raise, which is like this disconnect
Disconnect between what and what?
between the games that corporations, these big companies, are choosing to put their money behind and what players, especially like veteran players, people who've been gaming for years.
Right, they've seen it all.
Exactly. What they actually want to play.
It's like this constant chase for the next guaranteed hit, the next big thing. And sometimes I think it does stifle creativity. It makes things feel a bit safe.
100%. And here's where the conversation takes an interesting turn. The streamer brings up this idea of using AI-powered game engines.
Oh, wow. Okay, now that is interesting as a solution to this problem.
They think it could be a game changer, literally.
In what way?
Okay, so imagine this. Smaller studios, even just individual creators, suddenly have access to these crazy, powerful tools.
Right, the kind of tools that used to be exclusive to these massive companies with tons of resources.
Exactly.
It could totally shake things up, level the playing field a bit. Who knows what kind of innovation we could see?
It'd be like the Wild West of gaming all over again, but instead of 6 shooters, it's AI-powered game engines.
I like it. That's a great analogy. And, it makes me think about how we see a similar kind of disruption happening in other areas of entertainment, too.
Oh, yeah. Like what? Give me an example.
Well, think about streaming services, the impact they've had on storytelling. It's kind of a double-edged sword, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. And the streamer actually talks about this too. They bring up WandaVision.
Okay, yeah.
That
That was huge for Disney.
massive. And they loved it, but they also had some thoughts, particularly about the ending.
What did they think?
They felt like it was rushed, like they had this awesome premise,
Right.
right?
The whole retro sitcom thing.
So clever, but then they felt like they had to wrap it up quickly to make way for like the next Marvel thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's something I've thought about before too. This constant need for content, this never-ending stream of shows, of movies, does it sometimes come at the expense of a well-crafted, self-contained story?
It's like we're drowning in content and we forget how to appreciate just one good story from start to finish.
It's like we're always on to the next thing before we've even had time to process the last one.
100%.
It makes you wonder, are we losing sight of what makes a story truly great, truly impactful?
So we've covered a lot of ground here, right? Everything from ancient temples and AI anxieties to the future of gaming.
And don't forget storytelling.
Oh, right. And how streaming is changing the game. What are your final thoughts on this deep dive? This was a wild one.
You know what struck me? It's the interconnectedness of it all.
What do you mean?
We started with the streamer, just casually, analyzing Ocarina of Time, right?
Right.
And somehow we ended up talking about the future of entertainment, about our relationship with technology, about what makes a good story. Like those things are all connected in a way that I never would have thought of before.
That's such a good point. It's like they cracked open this treasure chest, and inside, alongside like the rupees and the heart pieces, were these really profound insights into humanity.
It's true. And for me, that's the mark of a truly great conversation. It's not just about finding answers. It's about sparking new questions, leaving you with more to think about long after the conversation's over.
100%. And who knows, maybe this deep dive sparks some new questions for you, our listeners. What do you think the future holds for gaming? For AI? For storytelling itself? Let us know. The conversation definitely doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.